every time I felt like complaining about a challenge, the tight schedule, the freezing weather, the darkness at 4 p.m. when you shoot in the winter in Europe, or any kind of story struggle or budget struggle, I was always reminded that the story I was telling was about actual struggle, that Dietrich put his life on the line, and any complaint that a filmmaker might have about the difficulty of making a movie is pretty much absurd. So it helped me pocket all my worries and just keep soldiering forward to do the best I could to honor Dietrich. The question is, what is this film about? And I'd have to say it's about 2 hours and 6 minutes. What is this film about? This film is about Dietrich Bonhoeffer, one of the great heroes of World War II, a German pastor who was a pacifist who got so caught up in the attempt to change the result of what was happening that he wound up part of an assassination plot and ultimately paid the final price by being executed by Hitler. But in between, he saved thousands of Jewish lives.
Dietrich, du musst verstehen, dass dein Leben nicht mehr dasselbe sein wird nach meinem nächsten Satz. Auch wenn du dich uns nicht anschließt.
Rede, ich möchte es hören.
Gut, aber es wird nicht wie bei den Treffen des Widerstands, in der du Theologie der Tatenkraft vorgezogen hast.
Ihr Christen macht euch nie die Hände schmutzig, ja, ja. Ich wollte es damals nicht hören und am liebsten hätte ich es vergessen.
Das wird schmutzige Hände erfordern.
Das ist alles, was ich noch habe.
The idea was brought to me by some people that had money and a desire to make a movie about Dietrich Bonhoeffer, but no script. So I was asked to write the movie, and at the time, I didn't know very much about Dietrich at all. So I did 9 months of research, 34 books of his, some amazing biographies like his best friend Eberhard Bethge's biography, a beautiful book called Bonhoeffer's Black Jesus by Reggie Williams, and then all the pages of history, and found out that this was not just a man for all time, but actually a man for our time.
Schlägt Ihr Herz höher für die Judensau als für die Volksgenossen?
When I wrote the script, was I planning on directing it? And the answer is no. I was hired to write the movie. And then once the script was received and enjoyed immensely by the financiers, they asked me to direct it. And I actually said no. I said no because I didn't think it was really my story to tell. But over time, as the movie was coming together and they kept asking me to direct it, I was more compelled and magneted closer and closer to Dietrich. And at the end, I found it impossible to say no. And I'm really glad that I said yes to spending this last several years with Dietrich side by side.
Das ist eine ganz einfache Frage. Der eine liebt die Juden, der andere liebt das Vaterland.
Das Vaterland!
Ich möchte vor allem die Antwort Ihres neuen Rekruten hören, der doch Verbindungen zu Niemöller hatte in Ihrer bekennenden Kirche.
Ich komme, um mich zu bekennen. Ich sah nicht, was dem Rest des Landes klar war.
Was da wäre, Herr Bonhoeffer?
Dass die Zeit gekommen war, zu erheben, das deutsche Volk und den Rest der Welt sich beugen zu lassen. Heil Hitler!
Heil Hitler! Das einzige Problem ist, Herr Bonhoeffer, Ich glaube ihn nicht.
Once I wrote the script, it was not that difficult to get off the ground, but there had been attempts before I was hired where producer credits were accumulated by people that were not ultimately involved. And contractually, they had to be honored. So there's some extra names on there. And then the other part of it is when you're making an independent film, sometimes you can't offer a professional their regular fee because it's not a studio film. And in exchange for taking a lower fee, they can get a producer credit, which helps their career. So it's a way of evening the balance when you're making an independent film.
Nein, wir bleiben. Wir steigen da nicht ein. Nein, sagen Sie mal, was erlauben Sie sich?
Rechts, links, rechts, links,
Matthias?
links,
Matthias?
links, rechts, links,
Matthias?
links, rechts, links, rechts,
Matthias?
rechts,
Hey,
links,
meinst du, ich erkenne dich nicht bloß, weil du verkleiden spielst? Du hast genug jetzt hier mit dem Fasching. Bitte, Jungs, was soll das? In 5 Minuten ist der Konfirmationsunter... Wilhelm! Heinrich, schau mich an! Schau mich an! Das ist Wahnsinn, das ist kein Scherz, begreifst du? Hey, nehmen Sie Ihre Hände von mir.
Du könntest mehr vertragen.
Das sind Kinder.
Gehen Sie wieder rein, Pastor. Die junge Kirche ist jetzt die Hitlerjugend. So, jetzt ziemt sich's.
I said right from the beginning when I was hired to direct that this needed to be told by German actors. It's a German story, and I didn't want an English actor with their posh accent trying to come across as Dietrich Bonhoeffer. We needed a German actor with believable intonation and rhythm of speech. And on top of that, when the dubbing happened, I was able to have my German actors dub themselves, dub their own performances. So that takes away the oddness that normally exists in a dub, the space between the original performance and the new voice. So now we have an organic relationship between the performances, whether this movie's in German dub or in the original English. Marz Bleibtreu and August Diehl have worked a lot in English. And the only actor that I didn't really have a ton of English from was Jonas Dassler. So he and I spoke on the phone many times and Zoomed, and it was clear that he had a command of the English language.
Bitte sagen Sie mir, dass England es versteht.
Er kann euch die Bombe nicht zur Verfügung stellen.
Kann oder will nicht.
Churchill betrachtet Deutschland im Ganzen und er sagt, er kann es sich nicht leisten, die kleinen Fäden in der Tapisserie zu sehen, wenn der ganze Stoff braun gefärbt ist.
Da ist ein Glühen. Inmitten des Dunkeln, mein Freund. Man kann uns doch nicht allein lassen und einfach vergessen.
Ich gab dafür, was ich konnte. Inklusive meiner Reputation. Er befürchtet, eine Bombe, deren Spur nach England führt, bedeutet Invasion oder noch schlimmer.
Invasion! Invasion! Mein Land wurde von innen heraus eingenommen. Weiß Churchill schon, wie sich das anfühlt?
It was very important for me to play with the color palette. I wanted to show the extravagance of Dietrich's early life, how much privilege he had, what a beautiful, expansive life he had, the love of family, lots of animals around. And so that needed to be very pastoral and green and gorgeous. But then, when we see the interspersing of his life and the last week of his life, and also other moments from the war closing in on him, you see the tones are much more steely, gunmetal, gray, and a darker green, so that the audience can enter into the emotional temperature of the scene that the actors are in. And I like that. I like turning the color up and down to expand on the visual experience for the audience. Was it clear from the beginning that the aspect ratio would be CinemaScope? Absolutely. I work with John Matheson, who is a master. He just did Gladiator 2 and the new Jurassic Park right after he did Bonhoeffer. And he's done 6 Ridley Scott movies. He's such a painter that there's the only way to work with a guy like that is to let him paint.
Endlich haben wir das Flehen der erkrankten, vaterländischen Seele erhört. Sie ruft nach Kanzler Adolf Hitler!
Ja, guter Mann! Bravo!
Gott sandte Deutschland einen Propheten. Sogar mehr als das. Den wahren Erlöser.
Ja, genau!
Auf der Kanzel von einem Erlöser statt Jesu zu sprechen? Blasphemisch.
Dietrich, alles Neue ist gewöhnungsbedürftig, nicht wahr?
Where did filming take place? A great question. Belgium, 32 days, and 11 days in Ireland.
Hitler wird die Waffenkammer im Zeughaus besichtigen. Und wir haben dafür gesorgt, dass Rudi ihn führen wird. Ihr habt in jeder Manteltasche eine Glasfiole. Habt ihr die zerbrochen, startet der Zündungsprozess und euch bleiben 10 Minuten bis zur Detonation. Nach der Zündung gibt es kein Zurück mehr. Das gilt nicht nur für Rudi, vielmehr für alle, die im Widerstand sind.
I love Antonio Pinto. He is a Brazilian composer. He did City of God, which is a very famous soundtrack. Senna, another beautiful film that he did the soundtrack to. And I had worked with him on a movie called Perfect Stranger years ago. And he was so sweet. He's a legend. He's a big deal. And when I asked him about considering this movie, he auditioned. I didn't even ask him to audition. He sent me a 9-minute piece of original music that wound up, a lot of it, being in the final score. So many, many blessings on Antonio.
Herr Bonhoeffer, bitte.
Die Kirchenjugend kostümiert sich als Hitlerjugend? Ich frage mich, wie lange es dauern soll, bevor alles vor die Hunde geht. Also was können wir tun, denn es muss etwas getan werden.
This is the movie I wanted to make. There are 2 scenes that didn't make it into the movie because of disagreements with the financiers, but I only lost 2 arguments out of 10,000. So I surrendered those 2, and I don't feel the need to put out a different director's cut. You come to the cinema, you see the director's cut.
Something's coming. Something unstoppable.
Look around you, my friend. How much light do you see?
Hello, darkness, my old friend. I've come to talk with you again. Because the visions of me creeping left its seeds when I was sleeping.
Hate comes in every color.
And the vision that was planted in my brain still remains within the sound.
We have devised a plot to assassinate the Führer.
You will go to England as our spy.
Churchill sees Germany as a whole. He's afraid that a bomb traced to England would mean invasion or worse.
Invasion? Invasion? My country was invaded from within.
And the people bowed and prayed to the neon god they made. And the sign flashed out its warning. And the words that it was forming. And the sign said the words on the prophets are written on the subway walls and tenement halls and whispered in the sun.
I'm ready to meet my destiny.